At this moment, it's my delight to welcome our speaker this morning. My colleague, Reverend Julie Tkachuk, has been studying science of mind for 20 plus years. She's a wise woman, an author, former marriage commissioner, so she's married lots and lots of people in the city. Please welcome Reverend Julie Tkachuk speaking on Discover Yourself.
Good morning. Nice to see people here, nice to see faces, like real live faces, that's awesome. And welcome to all of you on Facebook Live. So the title of my talk is Discover Yourself, as Reverend Catherine mentioned. And I thought about what that meant to me. And before I did that, I kind of looked like all of us, looking at the world, at what's going on today. And it looks like the world has lots of problems, doesn't it? I mean, I don't watch the news regularly, but it's not hard to hear or know that there's lots of discussion about disease and virus and vaccines and division and inequality. I found a quote that I really appreciated. It was written by Frances Scovel Shinn. And she said, "The conscious mind has been called mortal or carnal mind. It is the human mind and sees life," and these words are in italics, "as it appears to be. It sees death, disaster, sickness, poverty, and limitation of every kind, and it impresses these upon the subconscious." Now, I have a friend that lives in Santiago, Chile, and I texted her just to see how she's doing. And she texted me back and said that things are not in good shape there. She said that there is so much division between the haves and the have-nots, and that it's become glaringly apparent now that COVID has arrived. She said that she feels privileged to have a job. Now, I didn't say this to her, but I'm going to call her on that, because I feel that everyone is privileged. I believe that they are, even though they may not realize it yet. Everyone is privileged, everyone is blessed, everyone is perfect health, everyone is abundant good, completely and absolutely. And we are not have-nots, but we are haves by virtue of who and whose we are. We are children of the divine, and we are intended to succeed in absolutely every way. And even to go further than that, we are not just absolutely intended to succeed, we are already a success. It is already done. Now, this Frances Scovel Shinn that I just quoted, I've recently discovered some of her writings. She was a New Thought author that I've never heard of before until about 3 days ago. Now, she was an American artist and illustrator, and she started her metaphysical work in 1925. And she self-published a book titled The Game of Life and How to Play It. And after that, she wrote several books, the last of which Louise Hay published in 2013, because she was given some of her unpublished works that were typewritten from way back when. So I also quoted Scovel Shinn in Friday's Metro Moment. And she wrote, "I am in perfect harmony with the working of the law, for I know that infinite intelligence knows nothing of obstacles, time, or space. It only knows completion." So everything is already done in the mind of the One. And in our teaching, we know that. We know that we are one with the One, and we know that when we align ourselves with that divine presence within, that everything that we desire is a done deal. So I believe that never should we feel guilty about our privilege, whatever that be. Never should we feel guilty about our success, our abundant good, our health, our well-being. Because to see anything else, to focus on a poverty consciousness, to look at somebody and say that they are living in lack, to me amplifies that. That amplifies the consciousness of lack, which is so not who we really are. Although people are living in the experience of lack, it is not the truth of who and what they are. We have lots of experiences. We have lots of human experiences. and none of them are the truth. I like to look at everything from that higher spiritual perspective and see the truth beyond that. I know in one of my previous talks I mentioned Jesus. Jesus never looked at somebody and diagnosed what their, said what their disease was, never gave them a timeline of healing. He said, you are healthy now, pick up your bed and walk. And that's what Science of Mind teaches. That's what we're all about, consciousness here. So it is thought that rules the world. It's thought that creates and begins that energetic impulse of the universe to bring everything together, all of the physical manifestations that we desire. So once we start thinking about something, we create more of it. And if you look at the news and what the news is perpetuating, I, for one, can see that that's being exaggerated and amplified in the world. So I believe that our job, our work as New Thought teachers, all of us teachers, is to hold the high watch, is to know the truth for each and every person who's walking on this planet, and know that they are abundant, and know that they are equal, and know that all is well. Because we don't have to fight for anything. There is nothing to fight, there is nothing to resist. There is only that which we need to allow. To know, to allow, and to be. Right down to our toenails, to know that all is well. To know that well-being abounds. Scovel Shin also has a term that she used in this phrase. She said, surism is stronger than optimism. I love surism. Like, we're sure, we're absolutely sure that this is so. No doubts, no questions. One of my favorite books is called Healing the Incurable. It's written by Frederick Bales. He was a contemporary of Ernest Holmes, and he cured himself of diabetes before insulin was developed. And in his book, he's got sections on omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipotence. And he is so clear that when we are aligned with that, now omniscience is all knowledge. We know that the divine source, God, whatever you call it, has all knowledge. Not just partial knowledge, all knowledge. We know that the divine is omnipresent, everywhere, everywhere present, not just over there and over there, everywhere, everywhere. We know that it is omnipotent, so it is all-powerful. Again, not just a little bit of power, not just some power, all power. Now, once we know this, once we embody this, we embrace, we embody, we embolden, and we be it all the time. We bring ourselves constantly back to that center, back to that groundedness, back to that place where we know, we remember who and whose we are. When we discover ourselves, I thought to me, that is me remembering who I am. That is me remembering that I'm a child of the divine, and that I am one with all that is, all the goodness that is, all the perfection that is, all the health, all the well-being. That's who I am. So I think we need to be singularly focused. In Healing the Incurable, Frederick Bales goes on to remind us, however, that focusing simply on physical health, which is what the book is mostly about, is not the answer. He writes, a dishonest man is not whole, nor is he whole who is greedy, critical, gossipy, jealous, stingy, sensitive, easily hurt, prejudiced, or intolerant. Therefore, in seeking only the physical healing because it hurts us, while persisting in our negative attitudes, we are double-minded. The bifocused mind does not produce wholeness. So again, our work is whenever we know that our consciousness is moving in a different direction than remembering who we are, our job is to bring it back. I think we need to be easy on ourselves though. It's great to say that we can do this all the time, 24/7. And I know for myself that that's not always the case. I'm getting better and better and better at bringing myself back to that grounded and centeredness. But I think, we always have something to learn, always. I think that is constant. Even after we leave, I believe that after I leave this plane, I'll still have learning to do. I think it's a constant thing for our soul's journey. Years ago, I hosted a dozen or so women's weekend retreats. And the women would come for a weekend, and they would be immersed in workshops, yoga sessions, Reiki sessions, feeling really calm with like-minded people, kind of like we are here. And they would just feel so at one and so at ease and so at peace during the weekend. And then they would go home. And they would hit the ground running. And I don't know how many of them would text me or email me or phone me afterwards and say, how can I hold on to that frame of mind, that sense of peace that I had when I was in the workshops, at the retreat. Now we could say the same thing about our Sunday talks, about our coming together as a group here on Sundays. We can say the same thing about any workshops we attend, any books we read. But to me, the first and the foremost and the most important something to hold on to keep that sense of groundedness and peace, is my willingness to remember who I am. My willingness to remember, again, that I am one with the One, that I am always provided for, that I am always surrounded by, immersed in, and one with the arms of divine love, abundant good. To discover myself, and to rediscover myself, and rediscover myself, and rediscover myself. And again, we do it by coming together on Sundays. We do it by our spiritual practices. We do it by doing our treatment work, our prayer work, our affirmations. Because we can identify ourselves with a whole lot of other things. We can identify ourselves by our name, our age, our family history, our cultural background, our social status, the amount of money we have in our bank account, how busy our calendar is, how full it is, our tangible assets. We can identify ourselves with our fame, fortunes, titles, all of that. But is any of that who we really are? I think it's great to enjoy life on planet Earth. I love all of the things, all of the people, all of the experiences that I encounter. And I think it's a great playground. I think it's a great place to learn. I think this is almost like, I think it's been said before, that it's a school. It's a school of life. But it's not who we really are, and we can't take any of it with us. Although I did read something about King Tut, and the tagline was, see, you can take it with you. You know, he had all of this stuff in his tomb. But anyway, remember, again, I'm going to say this over and over, remember who and whose you are. Remember that you are already a success in every way, and that your work, your only work, is to remember that. Because everything else is superficial. Everything else I call topside. You know, we have this deep self that we talk about. We have our soul's journey. And then we have the human experience, on the top side of life. We have, again, fun things to do. But again, our work is to move through all the mental barriers that keep us from remembering who we are. In You Are Invisible, Raymond Charles Barker, one of my favorite New Thought writers, writes, each day you are likely to be faced with one or several untruths. And there's lots of untruths that we're reading about and hearing about right now. And we're expected to believe them. You have your own set of balances, your own thoughts and emotions. Use them to weigh the evidence. We know when something's right. I used to say to people, when you know, because we do. Then remember, you can always change what you believe when you have decided to change it. Often this will require some considerable effort. Hence, we show up on Sundays and do our spiritual practices, right? Some of the old beliefs that we have are bound by roots that go down, down, down into subconscious mind. Some of them have been nurtured for years. It takes definite, specific work, starting with intention and decision, followed by careful watching of your mental attitudes. So again, paying attention to what you're thinking, because what you're thinking determines what you're feeling, and all of that is the magnet that brings to you what you experience. He continues, a change from the negative to the positive is always possible when you can recognize that all power, again, all power, that's that omnipotence, all power exists at the center of your being. All power. You're all powerful. You're powerful beyond measure. When you remember who and whose you are, the kingdom is yours. Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. The kingdom is within you. Heaven is a state of consciousness. I remember reading, oh my gosh, this is years ago, I think it was Pope John Paul II, in the Edmonton Journal, was quoted as saying, heaven and hell are states of consciousness, not physical places. Well, that was pretty cool for a Roman Catholic Pope to say something like that. He's a religious scientist at heart. So the kingdom is within you. The kingdom is the realm of right ideas. The kingdom is the realm of knowing, of that knowing, again, that all is well. Because we always receive what is ours by right of consciousness, always. And when you align yourself with that divine presence within, all of your desires are done. And again, I know I'm saying to remember who and whose you are, and that this is our playground, but I think we're here to play too. I don't think we're here just to be serious and do our spiritual work and sit and meditate for 24 hours a day. I think we're here to have fun. I think joy is our natural birthright. So when you align yourself with the divine presence, all of that is done. It's like presto, abracadabra. There it is. And we see many manifestations, like instant manifestations. Anybody who's a practitioner has done practitioner work for people, probably done treatment work for yourself, and you've had a manifestation. That's that abracadabra. That's that. It is done. And you know that you needed to have the consciousness of it first. We can say the words. We can say the words of our treatment. I am perfect health. And yet, somewhere in the depths of our consciousness, we know that that's not so. So our work is just to continue, to keep on discovering and rediscovering and rediscovering and getting closer and closer and closer to that divine presence, that divine essence. And once you know your worth, you don't need anybody else to confirm it. You don't need anybody else going, aren't you great? And it's not from that sense of ego that aren't I fantastic. It's not that narcissistic knowing. It's just knowing that I am worthy, I am valuable. Because if you don't know it, nobody else can give it to you. Nobody. You've all seen, how many rock stars, how many movie stars, that they have the adoration of millions of people, and yet there is something in their soul that is empty. Because it doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't matter how many people are looking at you and calling you great. It doesn't matter how many followers you have or how many likes you have on your Instagram posts. It's how you feel about what you're posting. It's how you feel about how you're living your life and what you're doing. So Raymond Charles Barker, again, repeatedly reminds us that what we are is consciousness. In the Power of Decision, I don't know how many times in little italics, his affirmation for us to say is, I am consciousness. He also writes, you have to be more than that which you think you are. There must be more to life than paying bills, raising families, and achieving some material success. To say, I am consciousness, is to state what you are as individuality. It is self-definition in the timeless, spaceless sense. It has neither name nor number. It needs neither location nor means. It is pure being. It is the you that you are. It is what you are in God. It is what you are in God. How powerful is that? I know in one of my previous talks I mentioned The Matrix. I love that show. There's just so many great lines in there. Morpheus said, you have to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind. That's what we need to do. We need to free our mind of fear, doubt, disbelief. of lack, of failure, of sickness, of loss, of insecurity. Those need to be erased from our consciousness. And again, we do that by our spiritual practices, because it's so easy to manifest when you trust, when you have faith, when you free your mind. When my kids were small, I used to watch Sesame Street with them. I think I loved that show more than they did. There was one skit with Bert and Ernie, and they're sitting in a boat on a lake. And Bert has his fishing pole and his line into the lake. And he looks down and he says, "Ernie, we've been here for an hour and I haven't had one bite, caught nothing." And Ernie says, "Well, the fish are down there." And Bert says, "Well, where? Like, I don't see them. Nothing's being caught." Ernie says, "Well, you just have to call them." And Bert goes, "What?" And Ernie says, "Yeah, you gotta talk really loud though, because they're really deep in the water. But you gotta call them." So Bert, "Yeah, this is rich, I'm sure." So Ernie, "Here, fishy, fishy, fishy." And the fish jumps out of the water and into the boat. And Bert's like, What happened? How'd you do that?" Ernie says, "Do you want me to do it again?" Bert says, "Yeah. Here, fishy, fishy, fishy." Another fish jumps out of the water and into the boat. Ernie says, "Do you want more?" And they fish repeatedly jumping in the boat. And I thought to myself, how science of mind is that? Like we can do the stuff the hard way. And I'm not saying fishing is bad. Fishing is nice and relaxing, right? But we can do the race conscious way of manifesting things by going out in the lake and, throwing in our line and reeling it in and, work, work, work. Or we can, I figured Ernie was doing treatment. Ernie was doing spiritual mind treatment, like wow. All we have to do is call things into being. And he was so sure he could do it. And he knew he had to speak loud. He had to speak clear. He had to just know that he could do this. So know you can do it, because you can. I know in Science of Mind there's a saying, treat and move your feet. I think that doing treatment is moving our feet. I really do, because everything moves in consciousness. It's not me that physically manifests things. I think we can follow our inspirations and follow our hunches and, take the inspired action. But I've heard it said, nobody's going to come knocking at your door. Your good's not going to come knocking at your door. And I disagree with that. I know a woman who had furnace problems, called the furnace guy. She's married to him now. I remember once when I've got millions of manifestations myself. I remember moving to a new neighborhood and I wanted to join a gym. I didn't know where the gyms were. I was busy unpacking. Within a couple of days, there's a flyer in my mailbox saying there's a new gym opening up, like 5 minutes from your house. So I knew where I was going. So that's that sureism. It's the sureism. Know for a fact that what you want is, again, it's a done deal. Because you know who you are. You and God are a majority. You don't need anybody else. And not to say that we need to live isolated lives by ourselves. I think that when we are one with God, when we know that we are worthy, when we know that we are enough, our life is just full of what we want. I really enjoy my time by myself. And I got more people in my life than sometimes I want. So, same with money, same with health, same with any kind of good that you desire. The irony is that when you feel like you don't, quotes unquote, need it in that grasping, gotta have it sense, it's there. I can't remember who said it. It was like happiness is like a butterfly, like if you chase it, you'll chase it away, but if you just hold your hand, it might just land in your hand. It's treating from that sense like Ernie, just from that sense of certainty and peace and knowing. I believe in signs. I get signs all the time, mostly because I'm open to them and I watch for them. I was out walking the dog a week or so ago, and if you've heard my talks, you know that when I walk the dog, I do affirmations. Well, I just started doing the affirmation. I thrive now like I never have before. I thrive like I never have before. And I swear, within about 10 steps, I see a little piece of paper on the ground. I walk past it, it's about this big, one word on it, done. It's done, it's just done. So I'm going to close with that. I'm going to close with, it is done. All that you desire is done. That as long as you remember who you are, discover it, rediscover it, rediscover it, rediscover it, keep on discovering it. Because you are a child of the divine, you are powerful beyond measure. Everything, absolutely everything that you want is already yours. It is already done. That little sign wasn't just for me, it was for everybody. It was for all of us. It is done, and so it is.